Hey, stuffers. If the government can't keep its mouth shut about aliens, how the heck did they hide a time machine under a lighthouse? Alex here, and welcome back to Stuffed with Alex. It's an observational comedy beat, because let's be honest, we're diving into a conspiracy theory so bizarre, so comprehensive, and so perfectly tailored for binge watching that Netflix already made a hit show out of it. Yes, we're talking about the Montauk Project, the alleged top-secret military experiments that gave us everything from mind-controlled psychic children to a genuine, teleporting 40-year time jump. Grab your tinfoil hats because the Hamptons, that bastion of refined East Coast normalcy, might just be hiding the entrance to the Upside Down. The intrigue must start immediately. Forget the history lessons for a minute. Let's set the scene. Montauk, Long Island, 1983. Camp Hero, a seemingly abandoned Cold War radar base perched on a bluff. But proponents claim that deep underground in a hidden facility expanded to 12 levels, the most classified military experiment in history was reaching its terrifying climax. The shocking reveal that anchors this entire story centers on two men, Bielek and Duncan Cameron. These men claim they were not originally from 1983, but 1943. They are allegedly the lost sailors from the infamous Philadelphia experiment, who jumped 40 years into the future via a naval wormhole generated by the failed experiment. Even more bizarre, they landed at Montauk and were supposedly greeted by an aged Dr. John von Neumann, the chief scientist of the program, even though von Neumann had been officially dead since 1957. So, let's recap. We've got time travel, teleportation, alleged government experimentation, and the ghost of a dead mathematician all before the first commercial break. And you thought the Hamptons were just for rich people in terrible traffic. The genesis of the Montauk Project is not Montauk itself, but a legendary naval disaster 40 years prior, the 1943 Philadelphia experiment, PX. This widely circulated legend posits that the U.S. Navy attempted to render the destroyer USS Eldridge invisible to enemy radar. The experiment allegedly went horrifically wrong, resulting in the ship teleporting from Philadelphia to Virginia, with surviving crewmen reportedly suffering physical and psychological trauma, some even being gruesomely fused with the ship's bulkheads. According to the central proponent of the Montauk Project, the PX was not just a failure, but a disastrous stepping stone. The surviving researchers, including Bielek and the alleged time-traveling Duncan Cameron, decided that the only way to stabilize the technology and continue the pursuit of exotic physics was to move the operation to a more discreet onshore location, Camp Hero on Montauk. They rebranded the continuation, known initially as the Phoenix Project, into the Montauk Project, pivoting the research focus from physical invisibility to psychological warfare and mind control. The entire premise is built on the alleged transfer of personnel, equipment, and knowledge from a catastrophic naval experiment to an isolated base on Long Island. A critical point when analyzing the Montauk narrative is recognizing the highly questionable source of some of the most dramatic claims. Bielek, one of the two main witnesses, claimed to have recovered repressed memories of his involvement in both the PX and the Montauk Project. Intriguingly, Bielek stated that this recovery of memory was triggered after he watched a 1988 B-movie based on the same theory, the Philadelphia experiment. This dependence on fictional media to unlock supposed historical truth suggests that the Montauk conspiracy narrative is deeply rooted in suggestion or confabulation, where pre-existing fictional tropes structure the evidence for the conspiracy. Furthermore, the shift in focus from the PX to Montauk reveals a thematic trajectory common in Cold War paranoia. The trauma alleged during the Philadelphia experiment was physical and gruesome. Sailors trapped in steel. The alleged experiments at Montauk were psychological and focused on mind control, a verifiable anxiety rooted in the existence of programs like MK Ultra. This change reflects an escalating ethical depravity allegedly pursued by clandestine government projects, moving from trying to make metal disappear to attempting to make minds disappear.
Before diving into the rabbit hole, it is essential to establish the facts regarding the alleged site. Camp Hero, located at the eastern tip of Long Island, is now a New York State park and a registered National Historic Site. Its official history is relatively mundane. It functioned as Fort Hero during World War II and later served as a SAGE, semi-automatic ground environment radar installation during the Cold War, from the 1950s until it was officially decommissioned in 1981. Its primary purpose was defense, providing early warning against potential Soviet nuclear attacks. In stark contrast, the conspiracy alleges that the site's closure was a sham. Proponents claim that the facility was secretly expanded to incorporate as many as 12 underground levels, employing several hundred workers in highly specialized classified fields. These levels were purportedly dedicated to parapsychology, psychology, and advanced electrical engineering. 12 levels! That's more basements than a Manhattan billionaire! And they built it all in the 70s without anyone noticing the earth movers, the concrete trucks, or the hundreds of workers required to move the tons of building materials needed for a subsurface metropolis. The story gained prominence primarily through the series of books authored by Preston Nichols, who claims degrees in parapsychology, psychology, and electrical engineering, and his co-author Peter Moon, Vincent Barbaric. Nichols' academic background lends a veneer of scientific expertise to the narrative. However, the authors brilliantly, or perhaps disingenuously, undermined their own claims from the start. In their foundational book, The Montauk Project, Experiments in Time, they encourage speculation by stating, "Whether you read this as science fiction or nonfiction, you are in for an amazing story," and described much of the content as soft facts. By strategically labeling their narrative as soft facts, Nichols and Moon constructed a self-sustaining myth that is remarkably resistant to criticism. They monetized the conspiracy, capitalizing on the public's fascination with hidden government secrets, while simultaneously creating a defense mechanism. If the claims are rigorously debunked, the authors can retreat and assert that they warned the reader it might be science fiction. This mechanism leverages the audience's need for belief, turning potential skepticism into a commercially successful paradox. Furthermore, the scale of the alleged experiments presents a massive physical contradiction. Experiments involving teleportation, time manipulation, and massive psychic amplification are claimed to have subjected human subjects to huge amounts of electromagnetic radiation. Such high-energy physics operations require unimaginable sustained energy resources. The fact that a decommissioned Cold War site could covertly draw the necessary power for over a decade without local utilities or government oversight, noting a gigantic and sustained power consumption, is a major logistical impossibility. The Montauk Project narrative takes a grim turn when discussing the test subjects. The core allegations center on systematic human experimentation designed to develop psychological warfare techniques. The most horrific claim is the abduction of vulnerable populations, specifically homeless people and young boys, who are allegedly used as unwilling test subjects. The infamous Montauk Boys. These victims were reportedly subjected to intense psychological torture, coercion, and massive amounts of electromagnetic radiation as part of efforts to enhance or control their inherent psychic abilities. The ultimate goal was to develop deployable mind control and psychic association techniques to give the United States a strategic, perhaps global advantage. This focus on unethical experimentation on vulnerable citizens and the objective of mind control provides institutional gravity to the unbelievable sci-fi elements. The claims align disturbingly with the verified history of the American military-industrial complex's ethical failures. The Cold War era saw projects like the CIA's MK-Ultra, which conducted illegal and unethical experiments on U.S. citizens using drugs, psychological manipulation, and electroshock therapy. By linking the fantasy of time travel to the verifiable historical guilt surrounding programs like MK-Ultra and the Tuskegee experiments, the Montauk narrative successfully generates emotional plausibility in the minds of the public, making the most outlandish claims feel like just another dark government secret. The logistical claims also remain heavily challenged by reality. The assertion that the underground facility housed several hundred workers for decades without discovery compounds the impossibility of the operation. Even a black-budget military project requires massive logistical support, supply chains, and secrecy clearance for hundreds of non-military personnel. The sheer scale of the alleged operation, conducted covertly on the densely populated eastern end of Long Island, makes the concept of zero external notice over decades functionally impossible. Drop your wildest theory in the comments. If the government really had a time machine, would they use it to win a war or just to find out who ate the last donut?
The alleged technological centerpiece of the Montauk operation was the Montauk Chair. This device was reportedly designed to utilize electromagnets to capture and dramatically amplify the natural psychic energy of sensitive individuals, such as Duncan Cameron, the time-traveling sailor. The ultimate objective of this amplification was to enable a psychic association trick, essentially a form of enhanced remote viewing, allowing the user to visualize locations or even alter reality simply through the intensity of their thoughts. Proponents claim the technology allowed for the teleportation of objects and people, the manipulation of the timeline, and even the creation of stable dimensional portals. The story reaches its climactic horror show with the alleged manifestation of a physical entity. According to the accounts, Duncan Cameron's psychic abilities were ramped up using the Montauk Chair to such an extreme level that he was able to materialize a creature from pure thought, a hairy, Sasquatch-like monster dubbed Junior. This destructive, uncontrollable materialization of a hostile entity is cited as the reason the Montauk Project was deliberately sabotaged and shut down by the operators in 1983. This entire technological framework is predicated on the unproven premise of telekinesis, or psychokinesis, PK. Rigorous scientific evaluation spanning over 130 years has consistently concluded that parapsychological phenomena, like PK, lack reliable, repeatable, or demonstrable evidence and are universally regarded as pseudoscience. The alleged mechanism, using electromagnetic fields to amplify psychic energy, is textbook pseudoscientific jargon. While electromagnetic fields exist, the idea that they can somehow translate human thought into physical reality, allowing a person to manipulate gravity or bypass the strong nuclear force to materialize a creature, is fundamentally unsound physics. The manifestation of the uncontrollable monster, Junior, serves a specific and satisfying function within the narrative architecture of the conspiracy. The storytellers required a definitive, dramatic event to explain the sudden cessation of the multi-billion-dollar project. By having the project end violently because the scientists pushed too far, the necessity of providing operational documentation, evidence of administrative closure, or physical proof of a quiet decommissioning is neatly avoided. The monstrous manifestation provides a causal relationship that is dramatic and self-contained. The legend of the psychic manifestation Jr. was dramatically and hilariously updated in 2008 with the appearance of the Montauk Monster, a bizarre, unidentified carcass washed up on a Montauk beach, quickly becoming a viral sensation. Predictably, this local anomaly was immediately absorbed into the existing conspiracy framework, with many claiming it was either a failed experiment or an interdimensional escapee from the Camp Hero labs. The mystery was short-lived, however, when zoological experts weighed in. Paleozoologists, including Darren Nidish, analyzed the photographs of the carcass. They concluded definitively that the creature was nothing more complex than a severely decomposed raccoon. This moment provides a high-contrast juxtaposition critical for narrative pacing. The dramatic buildup regarding the horrifying Sasquatch-like entity manifested in 1983 is followed by the reveal that the modern physical evidence of a monster is merely a bloated, unfortunate member of the raccoon family. The persistence of this legend demonstrates a clear behavioral trend. The Montauk Project conspiracy acts as a powerful, perpetually receptive explanatory framework. Any strange, localized anomaly or mystery that occurs on Long Island's East End, whether a deformed animal carcass or an unexplained noise, is instantly incorporated into the existing lore. This absorption process ensures that the conspiracy theory remains current and perpetually relevant, acting as a powerful narrative that grounds the unexplained in the context of government malice. Camp Hero today is less a site of secret, clandestine operations and more a popular destination for nature lovers. The 415-acre site is open to the public, functioning as a state park and national historic site, popular for hiking, birdwatching, and fishing. It offers spectacular ocean vistas and dramatic bluffs. However, even its current status fuels the ambiguity required by the conspiracy theory. Certain areas, especially those surrounding the distinctive Cold War SAGE radar tower, remain conspicuously closed off and guarded, maintaining just enough secrecy to sustain the rumors. The quest for physical proof of the underground base continues, propelled by locals and dedicated fort nerds who persistently investigate the alleged labyrinth of tunnels, gun emplacements, and bunkers beneath the site. This interest is so enduring that it continues to drive new content creation, such as the 2024 book Montauk is Strange, The Archives, by urban explorer Brian Minnick, which aims to provide new documentation of the site's shadowy past. However, those seeking the 12 mythical levels often run into significant, tangible barriers. Reports from explorers indicate alleged tunnel entrances or deeper areas have been sealed, blocked with concrete, or intentionally flooded out with water up to their waist. Stuffers, smash that like button if you believe LiDAR readings should be mandatory for all major conspiracy theories. This reliance on sealed entrances reveals a fascinating thematic paradox within the conspiracy belief system. The lack of accessible physical evidence, the blocked or flooded tunnels, is universally interpreted by proponents not as proof that the facilities do not exist, but rather as definitive proof of a massive, successful government cover-up. In this framework, the absence of proof becomes confirmation of the plot, demonstrating how these belief systems are strategically immune to negative evidence. Furthermore, the continuous production of books, documentaries, and media articles confirms the ongoing commercial and cultural viability of the Montauk story, even 40 years after the alleged shutdown. This narrative requires a moment of cold, hard, scientific sobriety. The Montauk Project, despite its rich narrative complexity, stands on a foundation of scientific and psychological quicksand. The entire structure of the conspiracy rests on the eyewitness accounts of Preston Nichols and Bielek, accounts that hinged on recovered repressed memories of their alleged involvement. Psychological science strongly criticizes this foundation. Memory is a highly reconstructive process, not a definitive tape recording, and is easily influenced by suggestion, trauma, and external stimuli. Bielek's admission that his memories were triggered after watching a fictional B-movie is a key indicator of potential confabulation or suggestive influence, where external media provides the blueprint for the recollection. Additionally, Nichols' claims of being periodically abducted to continue his participation against his will, while dramatic, align with common profiles seen in testimonies related to UFO and secret program narratives that rely on high anxiety or suggestive experiences. When evaluating the claims of time travel and stable wormholes, the conclusion is clear. The U.S. government has never officially acknowledged these projects, and the required physics remain purely theoretical and currently beyond verifiable human capabilities. Skeptics generally classify these elements as pure science fiction. The central technological mechanism, the psychic amplification of telekinesis via electromagnets, is equally flawed. The United States National Research Council concluded decades ago that studies into parapsychological claims like PK have not produced reliable, demonstrable evidence. The idea that electromagnetism can amplify a thought to bypass the fundamental forces of nature and physically materialize or move objects is fundamentally inconsistent with all verified principles of physics. The Montauk narrative's enduring power is its illusion of complexity. Proponents frequently employ genuine scientific vocabulary, terms like electromagnetism, wormholes, and subatomic collisions to elevate the story. This use of legitimate scientific jargon is a form of misdirection. The terms are used incorrectly or speculatively to convince audiences that the project involves suppressed, advanced technology, rather than recognizing it as outright fantasy. To illustrate the stark divergence between the alleged history and empirical reality, a comparative analysis is necessary. Montauk allegations versus empirical reality. Ultimately, the Montauk Project has found its greatest success not in proving a government conspiracy, but in inspiring one of the most successful media franchises of the last decade. The Duffer Brothers, creators of the Netflix series Stranger Things, drew direct inspiration from the Montauk claims for the core mythology of Hawkins National Laboratory and the Upside Down. The parallels are too significant to ignore. The concept of the Montauk Boys as abducted child subjects for mind control translates directly to the character 11 and the other child subjects at Hawkins. The psychic amplification chair used by 11 in the show is an obvious analog to the Montauk Chair. Most critically, the idea that these government-sanctioned experiments pushed psychic boundaries too far and resulted in the catastrophic opening of dimensional rifts to hostile entities like the Demogorgon and the Mind Flyer is a direct lift of the Montauk claim about opening portals and summoning the monster Junior. The fiction perfectly captured the dramatic tension and emotional horror inherent in the conspiracy narrative. In conclusion, the Montauk Project is a masterclass in modern American folklore, brilliantly fusing verifiable Cold War anxieties like MK Ultra and military secrecy with the dramatic spectacle of science fiction, time travel, and interdimensional monsters. Whether real or imagined, the story embodies the consequences of humans seeking to control the foundational elements of creation, the dimensions of time, and the power of the mind through unethical and self-serving means. The enduring mystery reminds us that the human ambition to acquire absolute knowledge and control, often pursued in darkness and secrecy, is inherently destructive. True order and wisdom are often found not through the relentless pursuit of hidden, secret things, but through reliance on immutable truth. The Montauk story serves as a subtle reminder of the profound limitation of human understanding and the certainty that all actions, even those shrouded in the deepest secrecy, are eventually exposed to the light of consequence. It's a personal message from Alex that while we can chase every hidden rumor and dissect every alleged timeline jump, the ultimate comfort lies in a universal truth. As someone who believes in the unwavering nature of truth, I find peace in knowing that no matter how complex the cover-up, nothing is ultimately beyond accountability. For God will bring every deed into judgment, with every secret thing, whether good or evil. Ecclesiastes, chapter 12, verse 14. Okay, thanks for watching. Peace out. Goodbye, guys.